Welcome to my TCG Story. It's a thing that I've been doing with my Pokemon cards where I build a RPG style strategy game using the cards, and I've played it with my daughter, and I have plans to play it with my son when he gets older, and I've been playing it with my niece and nephew. And it's a way for them to learn to play the card game, and learn how to strategize and level up Pokemon and have fun while doing it. Um, it's a Pokemon RPG using the cards. A player can level up and acquire cards for their journey. So this is what my nephew has currently. This is his deck and cards that he has access to. He started with a Mareep and was able to level it up to different Flaffies and Amphiroses that are more powerful over the course of the game. In this episode, I'm going to go over the different story elements of the game. I have all the cards that I've been using here. In future episodes, I'm going to get more into the encounters and also more into the rivals and also the deck types that you're able to get into. As the game starts, I introduce my character or my player into Professor Juniper. Professor Juniper in the first scenario is called Picking a Starter. She gives you access to a starting Pokemon, and I usually pick one of two options that are archetypes in a certain type of deck. So for example, if you chose the water type Pokemon, you can have the option would be the Poliwag or Squirtle. Usually I give the student an option of one of these, and they would be set into an archetype of water type Pokemon, which gives them access to a bunch of different types of water type Pokemon, and a surprise type as well, as you'll see when I talk about the different deck types later in another episode. Another starter that Professor Juniper gives you access to is a fire type, Charmander and Chimchar. Then there's the Psychic deck, which is kind of a poison deck, which uses Rattata and Ralts. And the one that my nephew currently is playing, Magnemite and Mareep. So far in the scenarios that I've played, my niece picked the water type. She's 8, I think, and did fairly well with that. We didn't play very many sessions. And then my older nephew, who's like 15, chose the fire type deck, and we got to play a few sessions one time when we were camping, and built a pretty cool little fire deck. My personal favorite out of all these is this one, but we'll see if somebody ends up playing with that eventually. I also have some dark type Pokemon for a dark starter that I didn't finalize the archetype, because I felt like these ones were probably enough. So Juniper, the way the story goes is Juniper sets you on your journey. It's just like the Pokemon game where you get to pick a starter, and she gives you some advice and sends you off on your journey. And upon doing that, you acquire the Professor's Research card, which allows you to discard your hand and draw 7 cards. You get some basic trainer cards like Pokemon Communication, which allows you to take a Pokemon and switch it in your deck with another Pokemon, allowing you to search for a Pokemon. Energy Search, which allows you to search for energies, and a Switch, which allows you to switch your active Pokemon. I figured that these were good starting cards that every deck should probably have. As a player plays the game, they're going to gain access to more and more cards. So this is the scenario on picking a starter. Professor Juniper tells the player to return later because she has an assistant who's going to give them a quest. And usually, sometimes I will engage with the student about what kind of needs to happen in the story and help the story along. That way, they don't have they don't have to make all the decisions, because sometimes I'm playing with young kids, and so oftentimes Professor Juniper will mention their mom or their grandpa, which are the next two things in the story. Once the player has picked their starter, they're going to go see their grandfather Choi and have a send-off by their mom. So they have their choice of their starters, and then I will influence the player to go see their grandfather, who is Choi. And Choi, they'll receive this card. Each player reveals their hand, and then you draw 3 cards. He, as their grandfather, gives them access to more Pokemon that they can use, so it's like a jump start for the story. And so it depends on what color they choose for their starting Pokemon is the color of Pokemon that he essentially grew up having. And so then they get access to a few basic Pokemon that they can choose to put into their deck. He also gives them, in the story, I talk about how Choi gives them a gift, which is gift energy. He also teaches them how to capture Pokemon using capture energy. Gift energy allows the player to draw 7 cards when the Pokemon this is attached to dies. The capture energy, as you play the energy, it allows you to go search for a basic Pokemon from your deck, which is very powerful. He also teaches them about catching Pokemon using Ultra Ball and Capturing Aroma. Capturing Aroma, you flip a coin, heads, you get an evolved Pokemon, tails is a basic Pokemon. Ultra Ball, I think you discard 2 cards from your hand and you get to search for any Pokemon. So that's how they're able to start getting more cards, is by meeting player characters and having part in the story, and they get to build parts of their deck. Then they have a send-off by their mom. Their mom arrives and she's like, I'm going to take you shopping. And this Sonia card, I am having be their mother. She's pretty, isn't she? It's funny when the kids get to meet Choi, their grandfather, and Sonia, their mom, and they're like, oh, that's my mom. So it's just kind of funny. Sonia allows you to search your deck for 2 Pokemon, or 2 basic Pokemon, or 2 energy cards. So that's a good card for any deck where they can just search the cards for the cards that they need. I also give them access to a bike. Their mom takes them shopping. She gives them a bike and also a town map. And she's like, these things are going to be useful in your Pokemon journey. Acrobike allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You put one in your hand and one into your discard pile. Town map allows you to look at your prize cards. I found that this is kind of just fun because then the kids can learn a little bit about prizes and how to draw them and what they are and stuff like that. So after I do this, I will usually have the player go back to Professor Juniper, and they will gain a quest, and then I usually have them at this point, after acquiring these cards, I help them build a 30-card deck, and I explained a couple different things to them about building decks, like having a split between Pokemon, trainers, and energies, and I usually, with 30 cards, I'm able to teach them a 30-card split, where you have a third of your deck is Pokemon, a third is trainers, and a third is energies, which is actually a really bad ratio. You usually want to have less energy and a lot more trainers, but for kids, that's a good ratio just to be able to teach them the game. After building their first deck, I have the players go back to Professor Juniper's place, in which they have a delivery assignment. And this is where they meet Roseanne, and they receive Roseanne's backup, which is a card that allows you to access a bunch of cards from your discard pile and put them back in your deck. And they also receive a rescue carrier. This card allows you to put 2 Pokemon with 90 HP or less from your discard pile into your hand. This is also a story element. So what I do is I have the player receive a mission where Roseanne is like, I need you to deliver this to Professor Elm in the next town over. And this rescue carrier has a Pokemon inside, so treat it nicely. And the players have the option in their next part of their journey to look in this, and I see like the trustworthiness of the players. It's just kind of a little test that's fun. And I'll talk more about this delivery assignment in the next mission when you complete the quest upon delivering the rescue carrier. So then they receive these cards, and they receive also a mission where they have to deliver the rescue carrier to Professor Elm. And then while they're here at Professor Juniper's place, I have them meet their rivals, which is like the main part of the story that I'm doing. Hence why this game is called Season 2 Rivals. It's season 2 because I've done this an RPG game with my daughter in the past. That was she had access to all the cards, and it was quite an adventure. And maybe someday I'll make a video about some of the story elements that I had in that. In this game, it's a lot more simplified. I've picked the cards that the players have access to, where in season 1, my daughter had full access to all cards and just she could catch Pokemon and all sorts of things. In this season, I've simplified things and simplified the scenarios and stuff a little bit more. So that's why it's season 2. The reason why it's called Rivals is because you meet Irida at Professor Juniper's place. You meet Irida, and you also meet Thornton. These are 2 rival characters who you meet along your journey, and you are able to battle them and gain advice from. Irida is a nice rival who talks to you and stuff, where Thornton, as you can see by the picture, I always thought he was kind of a little sassy. He's kind of mean and very blunt, and usually supposed to be the bad guy. He is the the goal of the whole game is to be able to beat him at the end, beat his hardest version of his deck, and then also Irida. Irida will help the trainer, the player, in building their deck, and she'll give them advice. And whereas Thornton is usually like, oh, I'm going to go train, and it's usually about, oh, you're going to lose and stuff like that. It's quite fun to play his character with the little kids. They always get a crack out of my acting skills, which isn't great, but yeah. Irida uses a water deck, and Thornton uses a tricky, dark, psychic type deck with fighting. He starts out with fighting Pokemon and then moves his way more and more towards dark types. So this is usually where I leave players for session 1 and end the session with the delivery assignment. So then they have a quest to go on their journey. So as a review, the player in session 1 will pick a starter, they see their grandfather and get a send-off by their mom, then they get to the delivery assignment, and that's usually where they meet their rivals and are able to start their journey. So in the next episode, I'm going to talk about how the players will complete their delivery assignment, and then how they acquire a few other cards in the story. And then I'm also going to talk about the different archetypes that I've built out that the players have access to. So whichever starter that they chose, we're going to go over all the decks and the strategies that are kind of built in with those, and some of the other cards that players can acquire along their journey. And then later we're also going to get into the different encounters that players can have access to, and I'm also going to go over the rival decks. I think it's really cool what I did with those, so look forward to those in the future. I'm going to have some other videos put together for those, explaining how the RPG story works. I wanted to explain a little bit more. The purpose of this that I explained at the beginning was to help my nieces and nephews learn how to play the game. But then there's some rules that I've kind of got put together with this, because as a player, they might catch a Pokemon, like Mareep, for example, and they can level up the Pokemon by using it in battle. So as they play with the card, I kind of take note, and the Pokemon will gain experience, and then eventually it'll level up. And eventually they might also gain access to a more powerful Flaffy in this case. And then they might have that Flaffy level up to Ampharos. And then Ampharos might level up to more powerful versions. And so there's a lot of scalability in the game where the Pokemon level up, and then you also acquire more cards. And the whole goal is to introduce Pokemon to the characters, or to the players, different Pokemon to the players, and different deck types and stuff like that. As they go out through that journey, they're able to catch Pokemon, they're able to get access to more trainers, and level up their deck. Let's see. There's like the story that happens, but then players can kind of direct the story and control what encounters they do. They can do an encounter more than once. My nephew, for example, did a Ghost Tower encounter. He did that one twice. But then there's other encounters that the players are able to play with. and some of them are harder than others. So the whole goal is just to have fun with the game, using the cards as an RPG, which is something that when I was younger I kind of did with my cards. I'd place them all around my room, and then have like the, the energy cards as like landscape, and then I would have the Pokemon face down, and I would go with my character and try to catch the Pokemon. I'd reveal it and throw a Pokeball at it, and I was young and just kind of playing and having fun making a story with my cards. So I want to know if you guys have ever made a story using your trading card games, whether it's other games or Pokemon. If you've ever tried making a story like this. I know that there's a guy in my local area here in Utah that has done something that I heard about that's similar to this. So that's my TCG Story, Season 2, Episode 1. I hope you guys enjoyed this explanation of what this is and how my story is going. I will see you guys in the next episode. Alright, bye!